Well, a very good morning to you. I'm Jeff Coleman.
And I'm Deborah Pinkerton. Welcome to Morning Light.
We're glad you made it. Well, as tens of thousands of human rights activists meet on the National Mall for the annual National March for Life rally, the number of Americans who consider themselves pro-life or pro-choice is holding pretty steady, but abortion numbers are climbing. So what is the message for pro-lifers today? How can it be more effective? Our Morning Light panel will weigh in with some advice.
Well, the goal of March for Life is to not only change laws at the state and federal level, but change the culture to make abortion unthinkable. Pennsylvania Family Institute is there, and we will have a live report.
So rewinding in history, October 1973, just months after the landmark decision legalizing abortion, Roe versus Wade, was handed down by the Supreme Court, a group of activists made plans for a national pro-life protest in the nation's capital, overcoming serious concerns about thin crowds and ice storms. 20,000 attended the first ever March for Life on January 22nd, 1974. Today, well over 100,000 are expected on the National Mall for what has become, Deborah, the largest annual human rights protest in the entire world.
Yeah, that is truly amazing. Whether you consider yourself pro-life or pro-choice, the impact of abortion is undeniable. There have been more than 65 million abortions performed since 1973. Roe was overturned on June 24, 2022. Statistics show nearly 33,000 abortions were performed in Pennsylvania in 2024.
So perspective there, that's 1 in 5 pregnancies and in a termination of abortion. But despite a generation of activism on both sides, Americans remain pretty split on abortion. A recent Gallup poll finds a slight majority, 51%, say they are pro-choice. 43% say they're pro-life. 6% are simply unsure. So why are Americans so divided? Why isn't there a consensus on either side? If pro-life leaders want to move that needle towards a pro-life majority, what do they need to do? What do they need to add to their messaging on abortion? As we told you at the top of this show, tens of thousands of people today will converge in Washington, D.C. for the National March for Life. My daughter Anna is a student at Liberty University. She's on the bus in a caravan headed there right now. So before we turn to our Morning Light panel, let's check in with Anna. Well, a very special good morning to you, Anna. Welcome to Morning Light.
Good morning.
What time do you guys get on the bus this morning?
4:30, bright and early.
And how many buses are there coming from Liberty?
I want to say around 19 or 20, so a big group.
Okay, that's awesome. So I'll be able to find you in a few minutes. Good. Well, look, so you and I have been to the March for Life. Probably you were 7 or 8 when we went to the first one. But for someone who's never been to a political protest and certainly has never been to March for Life, from your perspective, what's the spirit and the feeling that you have witnessed since that very first march you and I went on?
You know, I think that there are two different kinds of pro-lifers that you see at these rallies. On the one side, you have a lot of churches and families and a lot of positive messaging. But then on the other side, there's a lot more of the aggressive protesters. Although I've noticed as the years have gone by, the messaging has become a lot more focused on both mom and baby.
Yeah.
And, you know, I remember just being little and there was so much fighting with the microphones. Really don't see much of that anymore.
Yeah.
I think that there's been a positive shift, and it's been really encouraging to see.
Yeah, that's so interesting, because I remember at the end of the march, it used to end in front of the Supreme Court, there were always protesters, and there was a face-off between often students and older pro-lifers, and that's almost all gone now. And you don't see as many, as you said, those Stop Abortion Now signs. They're all about loving and supporting the mom. Last question to you. There's a lot of evidence that your generation is thinking pretty deeply about abortion, but those numbers still show that young women are choosing abortion instead of carrying that baby to full term. Many, many young women. What pro-life message do you think is not getting through to your generation?
I think that there is a cultural narrative going on right now of the whole my body, my choice, and a real lack of the understanding that the clump of cells is actually a baby. And I think women do actually feel threatened because these lies are so convincing. And when we combat these lies with, argument, the message is not getting through. So I think without compassion, we just reinforce the idea that no one really cares. And I think that there's an absolute need for the truth, but it should be spoken in love in a way that shows that we care about both mom and baby.
Beautifully said. I love you, Anna. I'll see you in a few minutes on the mall in D.C. Be careful and please wear your gloves.
Love you too. See ya.
See you soon. Well, we now turn to our morning light panel for some insight. John Wetzel, Luke Covert, Jenn Boyd is back. Friends, the abortion debate is one that either people lean into or they completely avoid. And then in the silence and the quiet of relationships, people make decisions which are still largely protected in America by laws. There is a sense, Jenn, that the abortion issue, though for some people they hear a lack of compassion. The pro-life movement, though, has pivoted, as Anna said, from Stop Abortion Now, from guilt-laden messages, perhaps like abortion stops a beating heart. So instead of, don't you know what you're doing, there's help for you, your partner. But there's still a huge disconnect between these two worlds where many people still say, I don't see it as a moral issue.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think we need to stop looking at it like an argument, like winning something to be right. And it needs to be about understanding so that we can reveal and heal. Behind every decision we make is a core root as to why. And I think a lot of these women make choices out of fear, whether they're young and unwed and they're afraid, oh my gosh, how am I going to be a mom to this child? How am I going to afford this? All these fears that come up. Or whether they're married and maybe in an abusive marriage and afraid to bring a child into this world, or afraid that maybe they have a medical condition and, you know, the husband and the wife use protection, but she still got pregnant. She's afraid she's not going to be able to carry her. The baby's going to. There's core roots, I think, a lot of times of fear, and we miss the boat when we don't address the root of the issue of being fear and what am I going to do. And so many times we're so concerned about getting out our messaging. And our messaging may be compassionate and good and full of truth and love, but we don't have the actions to back it up, and we don't come alongside these women and help them or give them resources or make them feel seen or heard.
So you're the filmmaker on the panel. You're the one who
Where does this go?
who understands messaging better than anybody I've ever met. So if you are trying then to take her messaging and then make it accessible to a world that is divided on this issue, how do you make an invitation message to have that conversation so you can get to, by the way, we have help.
Right.
Someplace you can go.
I don't know. I mean, I think there's like a sense that both sides feel the other side is being intellectually dishonest in the way that they're arguing about this.
Okay.
Because I think at the core of pro-life and pro-choice, nobody's pro-murder. So the argument, I think the old argument that Anna was bringing up was wrong, because it's like saying you guys are pro-murder, right? And they're basically saying, no, we just believe in different science, like what those cells mean.
Right.
So it's almost like, I'm glad the argument is shifting, because it's like, that was intellectually dishonest. It's like we're basically assuming the other person is evil. You know what I mean? I think we need to switch it and assume that the other person is pro the good of humanity. Do you know what I mean? So I feel like the messaging itself is more nuanced than really fits in a 30-second headline or something.
Right.
And to me, one of the biggest problems is that the young generation doesn't see the positives of parenthood, of children, of family, of all of that. It's like it hasn't been sold well. So from a messaging perspective, to me, it goes like way back to that these people are, it's seen as a problem, like a medical crisis. Pregnancy is a medical crisis. Having children is a life-disrupting event, which like, I have 5 kids. It disrupts your life every time. But it's like that, why would you want that, you know? Like so packaging it in a way that's like, no, this is beautiful, this is great, this is what we're all here for. It's the only thing you have in common with every single one of your ancestors, your dad and your granddad and your great, and they all did this one thing, and you're not going to, you know? And it's, so, I don't know, there's something that's like 4 steps back that people haven't been sold well.
What do you think keeps people from having that kind of perspective, or even having enough bandwidth to have a deeper conversation than the bumper sticker on abortion? Because right now we're in this trade-off, you know, do you support this bill? Well, then you're pro-choice. Do you support that? Well, then you're pro-life. And there really isn't this kind of extended conversation, and we certainly wouldn't bring it up with more than one family member at a time.
Yeah. Well, I think Anna nailed it, you know, love and compassion and leading with love. And I think you bring up just a series of circumstances that lie behind it's a difficult decision for some people. And I think some of what we need to understand is that the level of loneliness people. And when you talk, when you were talking about, the thought process someone going through, absent a community, it's very challenging, in this environment. And so I think it's critical that we have these conversations very early on, but also the kind of things we're normalizing, like being part of a community, family values, those kinds of things, I think are create the environment to have the conversations, but we have to back it up with support.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't, one thing, be cutting the kinds of things that add to the anxiety that folks have, like, I'm not going to be able to afford this. I'm not going to be able to feed my child. These are real concerns that you can't decouple.
They're connected.
And it's not excusing it.
So I'm going to be very respectful to people in our audience right now who are saying, but my generation just did what we were supposed to do. We got married for life. When we got pregnant, we carried the child to term, we raised that child. What is complex about do your duty, do the right thing? And I know because we know people like that who are just saying, just do the right thing. I did the right thing. Why can't you do the right thing? Why are you making it so complex? How do you gently, carefully wade into that discussion with a loving grandparent who is giving that kind of messaging?
Yeah, life is complex. And not one of our stories is the same. Our stories are as unique as the fingerprints on our hands. And we can't broad brush everything, but we have to meet people uniquely where they're at to say, this is your circumstances. And instead of trying to bring them into your world and say, oh, you should do things like I did, how about I try and understand your world so that I can help you where you're at and give you the resources that you need instead of assuming that your journey should be just like mine.
Interesting, yeah. Politicians are very movable on this issue, depending on what district they live in, depending on what party they need to court. So there really isn't a sense of conviction. When I hear politicians talk about this issue, there isn't conviction. Is it important that people who are leading the public policy discussion actually believe what they're saying? And what is a better way of having some kind of dialogue before cutting it off, especially between politicians? Because as long as this is a red district, that person's going to vote pro-life. It's a blue district, that person's going to vote pro-choice, and now you are stuck.
Yeah. I mean, I see it as like there's no conviction on the morality of it, but there's serious conviction on the necessity. It is the barrier to entry. To be a Republican, you must be pro-life. To be a Democrat.
And just say it is really what happens.
Yeah, and it's like, and I think that's broken because the nuance is where we need to come together in the whole thing. And I know it's like protecting unborn life, protecting women from destroying their lives or being thrown into poverty or situation. So like both sides have empathy.
Both sides, that's the argument summed up. Yeah.
Yeah, and to me, it's like, how do you think, I just keep going back to the fact that it's like, what is the goal and the dream of these people in this generation? And if the goal and the dream is wealth and fame and riches and virality on TikTok, having 5 kids doesn't really help with that, And if the goal is being 65 years old and having a loving family around you at Thanksgiving, well then, having some kids, no matter how it happened, does fit into that. And so it's like, to me, I don't really care what the politicians have to say about it because I know that it's just, well, I'm a Democrat, so I have to. I'm a Republican, so I have to. I would much rather hear the conversation shift into the future. What do we want out of life?
Luke has just given us this picture, at least 2 different pictures. And this notion of, as you described, family, community, faith, stability, warmth, Thanksgiving. But I don't see a lot of social media messaging saying that 5 kids gives you a better table at Thanksgiving, and it gives you a richer life and more phone conversations when you're 89 and 90, and you're probably not going to be lonely. What do you do when you're talking to one of your guys, your young guys that you're coaching and you're mentoring, because there are hundreds of them that you are? What do you say to them? Like, hey, try that.
Yeah, well, first I build a relationship with them and I understand like what's important to them, so I can tailor what they need to learn in a manner where they can achieve it. I mean, but when you talk about social media and stuff, I think Christians need to understand or adjust in how we witness. And there was a time when we had political leadership who was engaged and active Christians or acted like it. That doesn't exist today. So we keep going around like robots acting like it's going to happen. This is not going to happen in a political environment. And it's our job as Christians to be the witness, hands and feet of Jesus. So it looks like action. It looks like supporting people, and it looks like actually doing it.
You have 15 seconds, a final word on this issue, just a little advice for people who are struggling with the issue.
Yeah, well, I just pray that we have hearts to seek to understand, and that we move forward with action and not just messaging, and that we see people as people and love them right where they're at.
Thank you all. I'd love this conversation. Wish it could go on longer. Well, coming up on Morning Light, you're looking live at Washington, D.C., where the National March for Life rally will take place in just a few minutes. Pennsylvania Family Institute is there, and we're going to have a live report. You're watching Morning Light right here on Lighthouse TV.
I'm pro-life because human rights apply to all humans. It doesn't matter whether you're a senior, adult, teen, toddler, embryo, they're all human. Human rights only work if it goes for every human, and the right to life is one of the most basic of all human rights.
Hi, I'm pro-life, and I'm marching today in honor of my firstborn daughter, Aaliyah Joy, who was actually stillborn. I'm here with my mom and my other two daughters, and it's an honor just to stand for the lives of the unborn on behalf of our daughter who passed. She has an amazing legacy, even though we didn't see her alive here on Earth. I just have a real passion to see the lives of other babies saved. They do have a chance to live here on this earth.
I'm pro-life because I believe that life begins at conception, and I know that God is knitting every baby in the womb fearfully and wonderfully. They're fearfully and wonderfully made, and I just want to stand up for those who can't stand up for themselves and fight for those who can't fight for themselves.
The 53rd Annual March for Life kicks off at 11 a.m. on the National Mall in Washington, D.C. This is the largest annual human rights demonstration in the world. Life is a Gift is this year's theme. It highlights that life is very good and worthy of protection, no matter the circumstances. Vice President J.D. Vance will address the crowd for the second consecutive year. A video message from President Donald Trump will be broadcast. Tens of thousands of pro-lifers will remember the anniversary of the Supreme Court's Roe v. Wade ruling in 1973, which legalized abortion. While the Dobbs decision in 2022 returned the power to the states, the fight continues against state-level abortions. The National March for Life in our nation's capital begins at 11. Thousands of people are expected to attend. Joining us live is Josue Sierra, Director of Communications for PA Family Institute. Josue, thank you for being with us.
Thank you, Deb. Glad to be here.
Why don't you set the scene for us as far as this year's National March for Life?
Well, security is really tight this morning as the Vice President is going to be speaking. The process was very stringent, TSA, Secret Service. The grounds are kind of empty right now. You can see a little bit of some crowds of early fans wanting to be right up at the front, and I saw some of them waiting very early this morning, ready to cheer, ready to drive some excitement here in the crowd. People will probably start walking in the next hour or two. The rally is scheduled to start at 11.
Any idea how many buses, how many people are expected to attend this year?
Yeah, I estimated about 60 coach buses coming just from Pennsylvania. So as you can imagine, across the country, I know the Catholic Church is always very faithful in organizing really well. So this place is going to be packed. I'm guessing just a guesstimate of 4,000 people just from Pennsylvania here today. Students, families, churches, all standing publicly in defense of life.
Why is this National March for Life so important?
Well, you know, earlier last week, we heard about flexibility with the Hyde Amendment from the president. I think that is one of the key points of why the National March for Life still matters. The pro-life movement needs to stand united. There are still many national federal issues related to the defense of the unborn. And so we need to still stand here all united, demonstrating and showing politicians at the Capitol that there are millions of voters that want life protected, that believe that life is a gift, that want to see pro-life policies, pro-marriage policies. And so this rally continues to be really important. March for Life is Pennsylvania Family Institute's partner in the State March for Life as well. So that's where you're seeing this dual strategy where we have the state marches, and it's important to speak to politicians in Harrisburg. But nevertheless, despite the overturning of Roe v. Wade, abortion continues to be a national and federal issue. And so we need to continue showing up here, continue having massive crowds, that politicians can look and count the votes and realize that abortion is wrong, that life deserves to be protected.
And with these large numbers, how do you see it really having an impact?
Well, politicians count votes, so that's one area. The other area is for Christ followers to come here united and to see all these people. I think sometimes you come here and you look to your left and you look to your right and go, oh, I'm not alone. I'm not the only one. It's energizing. It drives excitement. It's unifying. It's educational. It's where you can come here and hear the speakers and learn how to speak about the issue, how to defend life in a winsome and reasonable way. And so I think these gatherings continue to be a huge value. And we need to be seeing more and more Christ followers here protecting life, because ultimately that comes from Scripture. We are made in God's image. And so it is important that particularly Christ followers, but just really anyone, to come together and to stand for life.
Yeah, so well said. For you personally, when did you start attending?
Well, I attended my first pro-life rally when I was 8 years old. I grew up as a missionary kid in the little small Central American country of Honduras. It's one of the few countries with a constitutional protection for the unborn. I remember that day vividly. I remember seeing the pictures of the unborn, and I was born premature. And so I remember as a child doing the math and realizing that under Roe v. Wade, I could have been aborted perfectly legally. Of course, my mom was a Christ follower. That never entered her imagination, but that was quite a thought. And so the fight for life, what is the unborn, a human, a precious human life, a gift from God, that has been very clear to me since I was 8 years old. And I've been coming to the National March for Life here in D.C. many times. I've been part of sponsoring organizations, and now with Pennsylvania March for Life, just coming here every year to be part of this, to support it, to support the March for Life organization in this important work that they do.
How has this really impacted your life?
Well, like I said, since 8 years age, I've been very vividly aware of what it means to be alive, the unborn, the value, the life of the unborn. Because of my own personal story, having been born premature, because of those early images, the opportunity to stand there. My father, as a missionary in Honduras, brought to Christ a legislator and discipled him. And this legislator was instrumental in passing this constitutional protection of the unborn in the small country of Honduras. So for those Americans who wonder, will that ever be possible? It is possible. All it takes is one person in the right place at the right time. We see it in Scripture with so many stories. And so I just want to be here. I want to be present. I want to be available, whether it be together with everyone at the rally or just doing our work day in and day out at the Pennsylvania Family Institute. I think the fight for life is just one of those key pillars that is important for the pro-family work that we do in Pennsylvania and the many other organizations around the country.
What are you seeing right now as far as the main concerns about abortion?
Well, the Hyde Amendment was one of those that just came up. We're really excited and appreciative that the president and his administration backed off of that and kept that essential federal protection for the unborn. I think chemical abortion is a growing problem. We're seeing just as a national trend increase in chemical abortion. The numbers are shocking. Anybody interested in what that looks like for Pennsylvania should visit pafamily.org. Right there on the homepage, we have the latest report on abortions in Pennsylvania. The numbers can sometimes be discouraging, but it also ought to be a call to arms, a call to show up, to stand up, and to speak up. And so I think chemical abortion really is the future battle, and it's something that we need to ask the government to to review the supposed and false claims of safety of the chemical abortion. We know for a fact that women are dying. Women are being hurt by chemical abortion. We saw RFK at the Pennsylvania Capitol just earlier this week, and we hope that he will do as promised and actually put the chemical abortion through review again to look at the actual data and the science in terms of the harm it's doing to women. We need to care about women. Compassion for women is essential, but true compassion only comes through objective truth. And the objective truth is that chemical abortion is hurting women.
So very well said. Josue, thank you so much for being with us, and thank you for what you're doing in our nation's capital. Have a wonderful time. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Coming up Monday on Morning Light, from CrossFit to Christ, God is transforming lives among the unreached in Thailand. Hear how one missionary family's passion for reaching their neighbors through sports has opened the doors to share the gospel. That's a look at what's coming up Monday on Morning Light. Now, Jeff, your closing thoughts.
Can't wait for that conversation. Well, as soon as I sign off today, I'm getting in the car and driving to Washington, D.C. to meet up with my daughter, Anna, and a group of her friends from Liberty University. Our earliest travel adventures together were boarding that pre-dawn bus at our church and standing for at least an hour on the frigid mall in Washington, D.C., then marching those blocks between the rally location and the Supreme Court. There is nothing quite like standing in a sea of 100,000 plus friends who share the same urgency and concern about human rights. But today I'll also be thinking about those marchers around the world standing up for their own right to breathe free. Instead of police officers and soldiers protecting their right to speak and worship freely in places like Iran and Russia and North Korea, these acts are considered rebellion against the state. And we've seen in recent days the terrible price so many have paid. So today, Anna and I will be marching for those without a voice, and we'll be thanking God for the right to free and open expression right here at home. And all of you who are marching for life, thank you. For Deborah and the entire Morning Light team, I'm Jeff Coleman. Thanks for spending this day with us. It's cold out there, so check on your neighbors, and we'll look for you again next week.